This is where we hold them! This is where we fight!
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack Podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.
Rob, what's good, homie?
Yo, it never gets old watching you slaughter Barstool Carl, by the way, in our opening segment. I swear that never gets old, man.
I like the worst of the week. I like the worst of the week spear going into the guy's chest. You know, if anybody wants to get their rosin bag. Rob, we set out we set out the first official order of rosin bags.
Yeah, we already got some feedback.
Stuff.
Already got some feedback on the bags. Shout out to the Balls and Babe tournament organization out in Vegas. They ordered a bunch of bags from us, and they actually gave them away in raffles.
Nice.
People loved it, man. It was the big hit, according to Sherry. So I know she'll be popping in the chat here probably tonight. But yo, we appreciate the support, and our goal is to get a rosin bag in every bowler's hands across the country. Maybe we'll talk to Chad Murphy, and we'll make a deal with the USBC, and we'll have a Sweep the Rack rosin bag in every USBC membership prize packet.
Tim Buck would be proud.
Could you imagine if Tim Buck got a rosin bag?
Oh my God.
Could you imagine if Tim Buck got a rosin bag and his prize from the USBC?
His head would explode. His head would explode.
Dude, speaking of Tim Buck, there is a new USBC message board that got started.
There is. There is. Yeah, it seems high level. I don't know. I just get it's like for industry leaders and true bowlers or something. It is. And listen, Brian Voss already put a post up on there. So I mean, you're in serious company there. If those are the type of people that are on there posting, but dude, really good.
If we could get Tim Buck's address, if somebody knows where he lives, I will send him one on us. I'll send him two. Dude, I'll send him two. So if somebody could get us Tim Buck, even the bowling alley he bowls out of, I'll send one and put his name on it so they can give it to him.
Care of Bowling Center, attention, Tim Buck. Worst of the week rosin bag. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yo, shout to Robert Hamilton, who won yet another tournament using our rosin bag as well. So there were also Rob, I was not able to bowl the New Jersey State Masters this weekend. I'm not getting into my personal life here, but I had a small minor surgery, but I wasn't fully recovered from the surgery. I didn't get to bowl this past weekend, but I'll tell you this: there were quite a few Sweep the Rack rosin bags in the final 16. I went to watch some of the match play Sunday morning before football, and there were Sweep the Rack rosin bags all over the place. I was like, oh, this is great. This is amazing.
Yo, I'm telling you, there's a reason why they're in the top 16 too. I guarantee you, if they weren't using the rosin bag, they probably wouldn't have made the cut.
Probably not. Probably not. Clearly not. So, all good. So,
how'd Lee go though? How'd Lee go last night?
Yo, for the first time ever, I'm going to refuse to give my actual league score. I shouldn't have bowled. I shouldn't have bowled. I should have sat out.
Wow, I still was not bad, huh? Wait. Hold on. Wait.
I still wasn't ready to come back.
Wait, but you've been on this show and you've talked about you bowling 450, 440. So
yeah, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. No, it wasn't lower than any of those. No. Okay. It was sub 500. It was sub 500. I'll go there. It was sub 500. I 38. I shouldn't have. No, it wasn't that bad. It was almost though. I shouldn't have come back. I shouldn't have come back from. I should have taken another week off. That's basically what it boils down to. Yeah, I didn't feel like I could physically throw the ball the way that
You need to on a shot like that.
Throw it, or just in general. I don't. It was. Honestly, I can't get into it because I have to explain things about.
It's fine.
It's fine. And all that, and like I'll say it has something to do with stitches. I'll say that. Okay.
Yeah, and, I mean, dude, that's surgery, man.
It didn't make it. That's surgery. It didn't make it real natural. I'll use the word. It didn't make it real natural to throw the ball. Anthony Battaglia asked him what pattern it was. It was the long pattern that I went 690 on the last time I bowled on it. So it wasn't the pattern. It certainly wasn't the pattern. It was me. I was not throwing the ball anywhere near to my normal form or timing right now. I did go practice Saturday afternoon just to see if I could throw the ball. And I was able to throw the ball. But again, it was unnatural, not natural to me. So
it was a good decision to skip the tournament, like I told you to. From
yeah. And I'm going to be honest. I considered going to the tournament, and and really my deciding factor was that it was $170 to bowl.
I told you it was
not to say that that's like a crazy amount of money. I mean, I'm fortunate. I can afford that to bowl if I want. But I didn't want to pay $170 to find out if I could throw it well or not after not bowling for a couple weeks. So, yeah, it was a brutal night on Tuesday. One of our teammates quit as well. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons that I didn't really feel like I had much choice but to show up and bowl because we already have a sub who's now coming into our team to bowl full time because the third guy we were bowling with quit. So not the best week of bowling for me. So
all right. Well, there is a lot of other bowling to talk about.
Yeah, I'm going to practice tomorrow, Nob Hill tomorrow. Hopefully I'll be there. I am also bowling Greg Tack's sport event on Saturday, the Grinch Classic at Lodi. They'll be super tough at that. So I'll still be out there bowling. If I'll bowl, I'm paid to bowl the event. I'm going to go and bowl the event. I'm just hoping that on Friday I can kind of get things feeling a little bit more natural and, get my situation a little bit solidified. So all good.
Question for the chat. Okay. I don't know why I just thought of this, but what is your lowest league series that you've ever bowled as an adult?
Oh, it's in this league this year. It's like for the 447, I would say.
447 as an adult.
Yeah.
I
want
to hear it from the fans. What are the fans and people in the chat? What me? Personally, like I don't. Man, I really.
You probably don't even know because it was probably something so unmemorable. You just wouldn't know. Like it's probably not that hot, not that low.
No, I'd say probably in like the low, maybe like 5.0s, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say 5'10", 5'20", something like that.
But like I was also really good as a young adult too, and I didn't bowl on a lot of sport shots as a young guy. So, I mean, reality. I mean, I would probably have a better chance of doing what you did and bowling my lowest ever league series on an adult sport shot. Honestly.
Let me say something. 98% of bowlers, if they bowled in a sports shot environment, would bowl their lowest series in that environment.
Yeah, Scott Farrelly Sr., man. Good to see you in the chat. Always a fan watching. In this economy, don't throw 170 down unless you're already Big Mike. Good choice. I agree with him.
You know what? I'll be honest, Scott. I really wanted to bowl just to support the event. It got about a little over 50 entries. But I did want to bowl to support the event. 170 is a little steep, though. I agree with you. So, yeah, I don't know, Rob. I mean, as I've said numerous times, the sport environment is so different. It's so far removed from where the house environment is. Rob, I went to practice Saturday afternoon before bowling on Tuesday. And even though I knew I wasn't throwing it good and it didn't feel natural, Rob, I got to tell you about this interaction. I was striking so much practicing on a fresh house pattern. I walk in, they had some fresh house. I asked them to put me on fresh pair. They obliged me. That was nice. Shout to Nob Hill. I'm striking. Rob, this girl, Mary Pat is her name. Okay. Shout to Mary Pat. She comes, I don't know her from Adam. She comes walking down and she asks me, "Are you a pro? Are you a pro?" Rob, I was laughing. This girl had me dying laughing. And then I had to get into a conversation with her about, "Well, no, I'm not." And she was like, "Well, but you're throwing all strikes. Like you're I came down to look at your score because every time we look down, then you throw the ball, it's a strike." She was there bowling with two of her gentleman friends, nice guys. I talked to them too. And I had to get into a whole conversation with them about the lanes and how these lanes are easy and other lanes are tough. And Rob, listen, I left the bowling center. I told her I would mention her on the podcast, by the way. But I left the bowling center thinking to myself, my God, there's never been a bigger discrepancy between the one side of the game and the other. There just hasn't. I mean, for them to be so easy that I'm just striking at will when I know I'm probably at 60% capacity of what I normally would be, it was unbelievable. I mean, it was crazy. So I throw that story out there as well. But I stand behind that, man. The sports stuff is hard. If you don't believe me, go try it. Go bowl a sport tournament. Go get a pattern put out and go practice on it.
So that's a good, I think this might be hilarious, but I think that's a great transition to talk about the Bolero acquisition when it comes to people who have no idea what they're doing. Okay?
Oh my God.
So we all know Bolero went public today, right? And I bought myself, okay, just so on the
Rob
record,
is an investor.
I am.
Rob is a stockholder in Bolero. According to Jeff Rickles, I don't know. Jeff Rickles said he reports on them, so he's not allowed to buy their stock. Why doesn't the same standards apply to you?
We're not journalists. We're
because we just speculate. We just speculate
because we have zero credibility in anything we say.
We're speculators on the podcast and in the stock market. But go ahead.
Dude, we're not going to influence the stock price one way or the other. Okay, but maybe after this show we might. Who knows? First off, so Coley, it's time to listen to your investors, okay? I'm your investor now. So I bought, and I'm going to be out there. I bought 15 shares today. And the reason why I invested in Bolero,
15,000?
Yeah, right. 15 shares, $150, okay?
150?
15 shares, 15, okay? But yeah, $150 because it was like I got it like $10 a share or $10.09 a share. Okay.
Yo, Charlie Tapp calling you Brooklyn Madoff.
Yo, Madoff with all the Mets money, man.
I love it. Oh my goodness.
No, 15 shares. Okay. So whatever the amount of shares is, that doesn't. Hey, I will get like an email when there is stock to vote on stuff. So I am an investor in Bolero, but it is a good buy, and I'll tell you why, Mike. Dude, they're gonna monopolize the bowling industry in the next, 3 to 5 years. Okay, and the reason why I say that is because there was a great CNN business article which we will discuss. Okay,
let's discuss
the CNN business article. If you don't know where the article is, I could put a link out. So if you guys want to read it, it's a very, very good article. Even though, Mike, our podcast was about 2 years before this, we pretty much have talked about everything they've already talked about in this article. But Bolero was they talked about Brett Parker talked about Bolero getting bigger through acquisitions, saying that Parker said that even Bolero is already by far the largest owner of bowling centers in the U.S. There are plenty of opportunities for growth. He noted that there are still roughly 3,500 independently owned bowling alleys in the U.S., many of which could be potential acquisition targets. Mike, so we talked a little bit off air about this. Bolero has the opportunity to monopolize the whole sport of bowling, and then nobody is going to care.
I think you got to continue that. I would continue that quote there, and I would say, this industry continues. This industry is still fragmented and ripe for roll-ups, Parker said, noting that acquiring existing bowling centers and upgrading them tends to be a quicker and less capital-intensive way to grow the business than building new facilities. So, yeah, I mean, Rob, clearly, what does that sound like? It clearly says we're here to buy existing bowling centers and turn them into Bolero centers because that is cheaper than building new centers. So that's got to be a big part of their business plan. And if that continues to happen, Rob, there's already not many mom and pop privately owned centers in the US. Okay. So if Bolero continues that streak, then yeah, who knows? Who knows where it will go? I mean, it could end up with them being the main or only bowling center operator in the US. No?
Yeah, and why wouldn't I want to invest my money into a company that has that opportunity to growth? They also have the money to throw at these independently owned centers. Okay, I've learned this the hard way growing up in Brooklyn. Price of real estate and per square footage these days are very high, Mike. So when a Bolero comes in for an offer for a bowling center to, take over that bowling center, the independently owned owners are like, yeah, I'm going to take the money and I'm going to retire. You know what I mean? Because these people that, Mary Pat, she's in the chat. Look at that.
If the people think I'm lying, I ain't lying. If the people think I'm lying, I ain't lying. Mary Pat, I just got done talking about you, how you thought you came down and asked me if I was a pro bowler, and I had
ain't no pro.
I'm far from it. I'm far from around here. I get laughed at for my bowling skills by my co-host here, so all good. But yeah, back to the Bolero stock conversation. Rob, I agree. I mean, that's where it's headed.
It is. It's headed that way, people. So get on the stock now because like someone brought up Dave & Buster's. Dave & Buster's is a publicly traded company.
That's a terrible comparison to what Bolero is trying to do. No offense to our fans. I don't mean to be that upfront about it, but Dave & Buster's was small time in bowling compared to what Bolero is trying to be.
See, okay. I have a little bit of an intimate knowledge of Dave & Buster's, right, Mike? You know that, right? Like they were a client of mine for years. So I know a lot about Dave & Buster's. I know that I won't say inside knowledge, but I know their business model very, very, very well. And it is completely different than bowling's business model. But I did ask one time.
Dave & Buster's, let me finish. Entertainment center. Bolero is a bowling center.
Well, here's the thing is I asked one time a higher up because they knew I was a bowler. And I asked the higher up at Dave & Buster's why you guys didn't put more bowling alleys in your Dave & Buster's locations. They have over probably 150 locations across the country, okay? 3 of those 150 actually have bowling lanes in them. Why is that? Because they make more money with the games taking up that real estate in their store than they do of the bowling lanes. The bowling lanes, we all know, are 60 feet, right? From foul light to back of the approach. That's not including the approach, right? And that's not including all the ball returns, whatever. So that takes up a lot of real estate in a store. When if you use those lanes to put games to those, areas and new games, especially a lot of those new games they have, it's night and day why Dave & Buster's will make more money using that real estate for games other than bowling lanes. Anyway, so that was, an interesting article to CNN. But Mike, I had to bring this up because this is me, and I love, used to like the WWE, right? Not so much anymore. The CNN business, I guess, WWE, they hired or they have new partners that come in, George Barrios and Michelle Wilson, who were the previously co-presidents at the WWE before being ousted in a surprise move by Vince McMahon. Okay. Mike, so the CNN business article goes on about how if bowling could be the next WWE or Formula One, okay? Because now Formula One is on an uprise, right? Because of the Netflix documentary, which we'll get into a little bit after.
Yeah, we got a sidebar. We got a sidebar for a minute on that, or do you want to finish this point?
No, I want to finish the point about WWE because they brought the entertainment value. And Mike, like we talked about this, how long have I been preaching to people since we started this podcast back in 2018 about how the PBA needs to be more like the WWE, but they need to keep the integrity of the game, but entertain the fans like the WWE does, right? And they brought up Kyle Troup, who's got the charisma and the flashiness of somebody who could entertain people, right? But I thought it was so interesting because this article literally said everything that I've been yelling and screaming at you for years about. No?
Oh, well, some of it you've been screaming at me. Some of it you've been screaming with me. The WWE type part you've been screaming at me, and I give you credit. Obviously, they're thinking the same way you were. The other part about the entertainment piece, I've been screaming with you. But let's read a quote from the article here, Rob. It says, Parker told CNN Business that the PBA will look to the expertise of Wilson and Barrios. And again, those are the people, Rob, that you mentioned that are formerly associated with the WWE. Parker told CNN Business that the PBA will look to the expertise of Wilson and Barrios to try to make bowling more entertaining to watch without going overboard. Nobody is going to walk up behind anybody getting ready to bowl and hit them with a chair, end quote, Parker said.
Come on. The chair, that's the best part.
Quote, the sport needs to maintain its integrity, but we can make it more engaging. And they know how to take something that is more of a niche product and bring it mainstream. The PBA already has at least one personality who seems like he might fit right in with the WWE. PBA champion Kyle Troup, who previously worked as a Wendy's manager and is the son of a former champ, is known for wearing flamboyant outfits and sporting a hairdo reminiscent of the late painter and TV star Bob Ross. Sorry, I continue. Parker said the PBA is currently in talks both internally and with outside media companies about how to develop a show focused on Troup and other professional bowlers. I mean, Rob, is that not right from the Bible of Sweep the Rack or what?
Right from the Bible. It's like they're watching our show, Mike.
The TV show, the promotion of the best players, the most interesting personalities, the focus on the personalities, okay? The WWE angle that you have often talked about. I mean, Rob, these are all things that, we have talked about at length here, have gone over, numerous times on this show. So
they got to hire us to be some kind of consultants, honestly. I'm going to literally reach out to those people on LinkedIn and be like, you guys need to listen to our show because we've been coming up with this shit for years with no one, Coley knows we're there, obviously, from my experience. I know they're listening to a certain extent, Mike.
But here's the good news, though. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. The future will tell where a lot of this goes, right? And whether this is just talk or whether it actually becomes something. But if it does become something, Rob, I mean, it seems like they're on a track that we would like to see them on. It seems like they are going to take a shot at doing things the way that we have for a while talked about trying to do things. Now, I want to sidebar for a minute because one of the major things that's come up on this show that you and I have talked about and that you feel very strongly about, and I agree with you in certain ways, okay? And that's the idea of some kind of reality show around bowling.
That needs to happen.
That features the players, right? That features the personalities. And Rob, over the weekend, my Twitter feed, like many people's Twitter feeds, I think, was all of a sudden everybody was talking about F1 racing. Okay. And I'm like, why is everyone talking about F1 racing? And someone on my Twitter feed, actually a former beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles, Les Bowen, he actually tweeted out, why is everyone all of a sudden talking about F1 on my feed? And everybody started answering him and saying, yo, this Netflix documentary. You got to watch this Netflix show. You got to watch this Netflix show. And I've never seen the Netflix show. But here's what I thought about. Oh, man, we've talked about the same thing on the podcast about bowling. How bowling needs a show. Bowling needs some sort of exposure, reality-type exposure that shows people the interesting side and personalities of the game and of the sport and the conflicts in the sport, etc., and try and generate that into viewers of the weekend programming. And I'm assuming, Rob, that that's what's going on with F1. Are you familiar with this or no?
No, but I've talked about them having to do some kind of entertaining yet serious competition Netflix bowling show. Okay, look, and here was my idea from the get-go, and I've had this idea for years, Mike. Where they need to handpick the most entertaining people they could find that are bowlers, put them in a house. If you want to mix pros with amateurs, if you want to make it all pros, you want to make it all amateurs. I don't care what it is, but you have to interview these people to make sure that they're interesting. Okay, I don't want to see a house of 16 of dull bowlers just bowling. Okay, it's stupid. Okay, put them in a house, put a competition up for a lot of money. Okay, make sure that whoever you're putting in the house is very entertaining. Maybe they like to drink, maybe they like to whatever, have fun, they like to party, right? Okay, but here's the plan:
alcohol,
here's
partying.
the plan is right. If you watch the UFC, they have those tough enough competitions, right, where they put them all in the house. But they do show the integrity and the competitive side of the UFC fighting. They show the training. They show how they, work out. They show, their coaching and what's going on before they're fighting. Okay. So you show the integrity side of the game, right? So you show that part of them maybe drilling up their bowling balls, how they're laying out for the pattern, right? Whatever they're doing for the competition. You show the competition and it's live and, whatever, you make it a lot of raw emotion. But when they get to the house, it's all about them and it's all about their story. And, maybe, they partying, they get too drunk, they kick a hole through the wall, they start fighting with each other. All great, right? You all want that. But you also want to show the integrity and the competitive side of the game, as well as you want to show the entertaining and get to know the fans, right? You want to get to know these kids and these people at an intimate level outside of the bowling world.
I want hard knocks, but just like bowling. And when I say that, I mean, I want to identify the best storylines and follow those storylines as they develop, right? And that's what Hard Knocks does. Like, they're a week ahead, okay? They know what the best storylines are going to be. All right, you can edit and you can make people follow those storylines the way they're going to turn out. And that's kind of what I want. I want a Hard Knocks type experience for the PBA Tour. I want to see the ups and downs. I want to see the drama of the competition. I want to see the highs and lows for people. Being a week ahead gives you that advantage to be able to do it. You can set people up for a high and bring them into a low the next week. So,
hey, Dave, I disagree with you on get Pete Weber involved. Maybe as one of the coaches in the house. Maybe you set a house full of 16 bowlers and 8 of them are on one team, 8 of them on another team, and Pete Weber's maybe the head coach of the one team, right? But look, the days of Pete Weber, I'll pay no attention to the box in the corner. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Somebody's Vic says in the chat for our reality team bowling show, day in the life of an alley mechanic. Pay no attention to that box in the corner.
Yeah. So I guess my whole thing is you handpick these people. And when you watch the UFC, most of the fighters they bring on, that are house guests, are people you've actually never seen before. So you follow them from the start of their career. And a lot of those UFC guys who are in those houses, they end up champs of the world. And then you could go back and watch these seasons of UFC where these guys are nobodies and they're now they're literally starting from nothing and they're building up their career going through this reality show. I think bowling needs something like that. But
the problem is it happens so much faster in that sport. Bowling, it takes time to develop into that. But I agree with you though in terms of the personalities and we, as I said, we've discussed this. But
here's the thing about the WWE.
So that was a little sidebar, right? Off into the F1 and the reality series, and we'd love to see something like that for bowling. Seems like it's a possibility now with this new partnership that the PBA is going to have. Rob, anything else from the article that you wanted to highlight? I know that you wanted to talk a little bit about just the fact that even the article keeps bringing up the Big Lebowski and Kingpin.
Dude, bowling is never going to get away from that cliche. It pisses me off because everybody who ever bowled in their life, when people find out you're a bowler and they don't know bowling, the first thing they do is they say, "Oh, have you seen Kingpin or do you dress like the dude?" You know what I mean? And it's okay, look, I get bowling will never escape that cliche. But like when you have like CNN Business writing about that, like, and that's a cliche that's just like going on like over how long? Kingpin, over 20 years now. Like, we don't need another bowling comedy, okay? And Kingpin, I know, is in the makes of making a sequel, and now the Smallwood pilot is coming on, right? Which is a comedy. Okay, I get that's, people think that's good for the sport, and maybe I'm wrong. It could be good for the sport, right? It gets viewers and it gets people, interested, but we need something more on like the F1 kind of serious documentary, or something where people start to really learn and understand the complexities of the sport. Okay. And it's funny, and I always consider that myself with like NASCAR racing. I always thought NASCAR racing was just people driving in a circle. Like, I never really thought it was a really like serious sport. I never took it serious. I always was a joke to me. And then I watched a movie like of Days of Thunder, okay, where like you get to learn about like just from the movie, right? And it's just a simple high level of the basic cars and the engines and the brakes and the suspensions and how the car is, designed, and the pit crew. And there's so much that is involved in NASCAR and the complexities of it that you start to like learn about it. And maybe I would want to become a fan of it eventually. Bowling doesn't have that. Maybe like a movie back in the 70s, The Dreamer or something. But like bowling doesn't really have a serious documentary that shows the complexities of the sport and how really hard it is, and how, interesting it is once you learn it and you fall in love with it.
Very true. Well said, Rob. Eddie Grumman in the chat asking, when does bowling start again? This feels like the longest offseason. Eddie, it's because it has been the longest offseason. But good news, bowling starts up in a couple weeks, mid-January.
Hey, Mike's PBA schedule, he wanted 10 months off. So,
see? But my point is, see how my man is fiending for some bowling action? So it's not a bad thing. Sherry in the chat saying, if the short won't escape that cliche if it becomes a WWE clone. Agreed, Sherry, fair point. Robert Hamilton commenting, why doesn't anyone ever talk about the movie?
Because it wasn't a bowling movie.
Well, it was a bowling movie, sort of, but it also, Robert, it wasn't a pop culture classic, right? The Big Lebowski, Kingpin, like these are movies that, despite being 20, 30 years old, are still popular today, are still played today. So I would say that
what did I say? Dreamer. I said it.
Yeah, Dreamer is a good one. Jimmy from the Ringing 10 turned me on to Dreamer.
But it's old though. This is something we need, something new and like modernized for the sport. We need a documentary that shows what exactly the pro has to do from week to week. Even if they followed somebody like you said, Hard Knocks, maybe they did follow Kyle and Brad, or they followed Bill and Belmo, right? And they, had interesting points, or asking them questions about, what are you doing right now? You just drilled 5 bowling balls and they look exactly the same. I don't know.
Like, we could watch Belmo develop his NFTs, and bid on his NFTs and all that. Like, that would be his storyline. And Bill's storyline would probably be like stirring coffee. Every time you'd see him, he'd be like stirring some coffee, drinking some coffee, and doing his thing.
Dude, that's hilarious. Yo, I would imagine there was some, I'm just trying to think of some other cliches that the pros would be like involved in, like if you follow them week to week, right? Like,
true. But all right, we're gonna move on from the Bolero talk. Speaking of Belmo, transition to Belmo. Jeff Rickles, 11th Frame blog, right? By the blog, I think is his hashtag. Great blog. You guys check it out. He's been on the show a couple times. He also loves to correct us. We always love for Jeff to be.
He got corrected by Belmo, by the way, during the interview.
Did he? Okay. Oh, that's right. He did. You're right. Yes.
Which was my favorite part of the article, by the way, Jeff. I know you're going to be listening to this.
Great article. Great
interview.
Stole our thunder a little bit, I felt like, Rob.
Why?
Because like, the PBA Tour season's coming up. Obviously, we're going to be looking to put content out around that. And, what's still, even though he might not be on the throne right now going into this season, and Kyle Troup might be on the throne, and the PBA might be looking to make Kyle Troup the main guy. But, Rob, Belmo is still the guy that I want. He's still the guy one of the guys that I want to talk to, that I want to hear from before this season, especially before this season, because he's coming off of a rather down year for our expectations of him, and I think of his expectations from himself. But Jeff kind of stole my thunder because he did a wonderful interview with Belmo here that covered much of what I probably would have asked myself or wanted to hear about myself. It is a blog you have to purchase, so if it is behind a paywall. But Rob, we're not going to share the whole article. Obviously, Jeff wants people to buy the blog, but give me one or two points that struck you from the article outside of obviously Belmo correcting Jeff Rickles, the corrector, and making sure that he was correct.
I felt that it was pretty incredible that Jeff noticed him. Jeff asked him a question about how he physically felt at 38 being a two-handed bowler. And Belmo said he's never been injured. He's never had an injury. He's knock on wood, right? We all want Belmo to be physically healthy so he could compete. But man, like here's why that's interesting to me is because nobody has really bowled as many games two-handed as probably Belmo has. So Belmo is maybe, I would say, like he's going into unknown territory as a two-handed bowler. And people would always say, oh, well, what is he going to be like when he's 50 and 60? Is he going to be able to bowl two-handed that way? And physically, his knee is going to torque out. His back is going to give out. You heard all these, stories that nobody really knew. And I feel like that's important to know that at 38 or 39 years old, the kid's completely 100% healthy. He's losing weight, right? He admitted that he gained some kilos, from the pandemic, which I'm sure a lot of people did. He's trying to get physically healthy. He was starting to feel like he was starting to get physically exhausted by the end of the year when he was bowling. So the last tour that he was on, the last season, and he decided to lose weight. He's more working on his physical game. He's going light. He's going lighter in weight, Mike. I don't know if that means he's going to be throwing 14 pounds, but he said he's going lighter in ball weight, which is interesting because I think the balls these days, 14 pounds and 15 pounds don't really make that much of a difference in ball performance. So those were like at least a couple of the points that were to me like great, like just like, yeah, that's a pretty good and then that's a pretty good point. And then the other point was just he talked about a lot of it. He talked about Australia's like COVID restrictions and how like a lot of the interview was towards how he handled COVID and how Australia handled COVID and like how like how he's going to be handling that moving forward. So look, it was a great interview, man. Props to Jeff. If you don't have the article, you should sign up, read it. It was a good one to me.
After I read the article, I thought to myself, wow, Belmo's been searching.
Searching how?
Searching for what he needs to get back to the top. And the reason I say that he's been searching is because he's working on the physical fitness, like you said, Rob. He talked about changes to his equipment, like you talked about. He also talked at length in the article about trying to add tools to his game. Yes, I believe this was right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And when I read all of those things combined, Rob, what conclusion I came to, kind of reverse engineering his thinking to a degree, right? How does he arrive at that point where he's working out, he's making changes to his equipment, he's trying to put tools in his game? How does he arrive at that point? Okay, you see what I'm saying here? Yeah,
a lot of quarantine time.
Yeah, he arrives at that point by having a bad year and having a lot of time to think about it. And he's been thinking about what he needs to get back to the top spot. Now,
I mean, he went back to the drawing board, essentially, right? Cliche.
To a degree. It seemed, when you read that article, it didn't seem that way to you?
I mean, yeah. I mean, he also talked about mentally.
He tried to play it off about the bad season or whatever. And that's fine. I get that. I'm not making it seem like he's doing something wrong by doing that. everybody's entitled to an off year every now and again, especially in this game. I think our expectations for him have become so high that even a mediocre season is looked at as oh my God, is this the end? But
that's one of the main points he made,
too. I know he referenced that too. Is like people are out there saying, "Is this the end?" And is this it? And I almost felt like it related to the conversation we had a couple weeks ago about buying stock or selling stock in some of the players, right? And I talked about how I do feel like this might be the start of a downtrend for Belmo of a few years. Clearly, he thinks I'm wrong. All due respect. That he should feel that way. But I found that interesting.
No. But here's one of the important parts of that topic is the fact that not only was everybody around him had high expectations to make shows every show, right, every week, but he admitted that he had those expectations himself, right? Like those were, and that's I think an important topic where he actually brought himself down to reality now and said, you know what, I'm not going to focus on making a show every week or every tournament, because Riggles asked him, hey, what's your expectations for this year? What's your goals? And his mindset is like, I'm really just going to focus on the process and not really worry about the result. And I always talk about that, right? The last months I've talked about how you want a good tip as a bowler, focus on your process, not the outcome. And it wouldn't surprise me. He did talk about his mental game. It wouldn't surprise me if Belmo's reading. Dude, why wouldn't you if you're at that level? Like, why wouldn't you read about how to get focused and sharper on your mental game, how to, still compete and not put so much pressure on himself? Mike, I feel like that's one of the biggest topics that underlying that he didn't talk about is he was just putting way too much pressure on himself. You know what I mean? I mean, when you're at the top of the game and you're at the top of the world in a sport, you're really expecting to win every tournament. And, that's unrealistic expectation. It really is. So, yeah, Mike, look, I'm still buying his stock. I'm not getting off his stock. Like I said, last time the kid had a bad year, Jeff mentioned it. He came back and won like 4 tournaments that year. I think it was 2017. And I think he was runner up or he was in contention for player of the year that year. Not sure if he won it or not. I don't want to make any wrong, wrong statements and Jeff will, hang me. But yeah, man, it was a good article. You guys should all check it out. I'll never not buy stock in Belmo. I always feel like he's going to be, when he's bowling now, that he doesn't have to worry about COVID and, back home and the uncertainty of what's going on in his home country, which I feel like really affected him this past year. And he talked about it in the article too. So, yeah.
Shout to Jeff. Shout to Jeff Riggles. Buy the blog. Great article. All right, Rob, let's give the people what they want.
Yep, let's do it.
Oh my goodness. Worst of the week. It occupies too much space in my brain because there's like so many good candidates from all over the place for worst of the week. Somebody suggested I take the worst of the week from the board meeting I went to last night. Oh, by the way, I got escorted out of the board meeting by security, if anybody was wondering how that went. So,
dude, you cannot say that. Okay, well, what happened? We got to know.
I do that as my final thought. All right, I'll do it as my final thought.
Okay, yes, I can't wait. You got to escort. I fucking can't wait. Dude, I'm so excited now. Oh my God, you dropped that bomb on me in the middle.
You guys all could have came and watched the live stream. You could have seen it happen live.
Dude, you got escorted out of what? Okay, we'll talk about it. Let's get
let's do the worst of the week. All right. Okay. You want to go first? Or you want me to go first? I just have so many options. I was going to take something I was going to go totally outside of bowling this week with the worst of the week because there was just so much stuff on my stream, but.
I'm going to share my screen here.
Go ahead.
Because this is too good. Hopefully I'm not sharing something that nobody wants to see. No, I'm just kidding. Can you see that?
Yeah, barely, but yes.
Okay, so there's a picture of someone selling some bowling balls, and the comment says, can you put up a picture of your son's hand as to see if my fingers will match the holes?
Oh my God,
Mike, let me read that comment again for the people that aren't watching the show. They're listening. Can you put up a picture of your son's hand as to see if my fingers will match those holes or the holes? This is where we're at, Mike. You know what? You always think that like worst of the week, it can't get any worse. And for some reason it always does, Mike.
What was his idea to do this?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So okay, I got a quick story.
Terrible.
Anybody knows a guy who drills balls, whatever. I used to drill at my local center when I was a kid growing up. One day I walked into the pro shop, or was my friend. I was a kid. And I said, we want to buy a new bowling ball. I want to buy a new bowling ball. And the pro shop guy was just like, okay, no problem. Let me get you all measured up. So we went in and I said, all right, gave him the hand. He literally looked at my hand. He turned it over. He looked at my hand and he said, all right, give me 20 minutes and I'll have the ball drilled up. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, I was 8 years old. What do I know? Right. I mean, yeah, the ball wasn't really drilled. Really. I mean, you can only imagine. Right? I think I might have canceled the order. Actually, I went and actually told my older brother or something. Was like, yo, this dude's about to drill me a ball. He didn't even measure me. And he's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't get it. So I think we went back to the guy and we're like, yeah, we changed our mind. We went somewhere else.
Yeah, he probably had it half drilled and chased you halfway down the block, trying to get the money from you.
That's the dude. That's the guy. But that's what we're dealing with is sometimes people, here's Rob's tip of the week. Sometimes your pro shop people that run you guys local pro shops and own the pro shop, don't make them experts. Just because they own a pro shop doesn't mean they know what the hell they're doing. So you got to really go in there with asking questions and, getting advice on the internet, not the USBC message forum, right? But from legit sources on stuff that is important and how to measure you and how to fit you. And, don't trust every pro shop owner because they own a pro shop. Shit, you could buy a pro shop and open one up and you don't even know how to drill a ball for people. So just be wary, man. People, they're trying to sell you shit and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. So
my favorite experience in the pro shop.
Yo, what a punch.
Yeah, was when people would come in with a ball drilled at like a Sports Authority or a Dick's Sporting Goods or something.
Oh, Herman's.
And the fingers would just be going every which way like this. Their hand would be like this in the ball. And they'd be like, yeah, the ball just won't come off my hand. I don't understand. They'd be like, oh, where'd you get it drilled? Oh, I let the store that I bought it at drill it. And they'd be, oh, okay,
I got to pull this comment out, okay, because it's not my birthday. Anthony works for me, okay? Anthony, take a 30-minute lunch, bro, because I'm not having that shit you pull today, all right? I'll see you tomorrow.
So my worst of the week here is from the Hammer Bowling website Facebook group page, and it's by Jimmy Pellegrini. Jimmy, congratulations!
Congrats,
you
bro.
won worst of the week this week. Here's his post, which got 35 comments. By the way, that might be the worst part of this worst of the week. Here's his post. I have a question. I want to buy the purple urethane. I have right now a hammer web and a diesel. My question is, when do you throw the urethane? First out of the bag or second or third?
This guy's buying a urethane ball. He don't even know what the fuck he's using.
Exactly. If you're asking that question, general advice.
You should buy a urethane.
If you're asking that question, you probably shouldn't be buying a urethane ball.
Right. You should probably, yeah. That's just a heads up.
Okay.
All right, guys. That's fucking hilarious. Don't forget to, if you love worst of the week, www.sweeptherackbowling.com. We still have a select few inventory left.
Your brother with the comment of the night. I love it. If he's lefty, you can use it 1, 2, and 3. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Wait, hold on. Wait, I gotta. Do I want to even pull this YouTube clip up and see what Charlie Tapp's talking? But we got to talk about our final thoughts. Okay, so I'm gonna go bowling wise with my final thoughts. Okay, and then I'm gonna leave the floor up to you, and we left a lot.
Well, I have to give a bowling final thought too, and then we'll get out of here with my story about getting escorted out by security.
See, Sherry, I hope you kept one for yourself because you're guaranteed a 300 game sometime soon with that rosin bag. Okay, I'm not guaranteeing your money back, but I'm guaranteeing you a 300 game. Look, I think we got a troll too. Yes, Carol. I don't know what that means, but we're with you. Okay, so my final thoughts. Mike, there's a new junior Team USA coach, and her name is Kelly Kulick. In case you don't know who Kelly Kulick is, she, by the way, besides being a friend of mine, right? She is probably the one person like you could pick that I wouldn't want any other person to be in that spot. Okay. And the reason why is a lot of Kelly's history, right? Before she was on the women's tour, she was a Dick Ricker coach. She did it for a really long time. That's how I met her, right? Because my oldest brother was a Dick Ricker coach. They were friends. And then, we just, our families, long story. So we became friends with her. Kelly is such an unbelievable coach. She's so amazing. She's patient. She's, just knows everything about the sport. She's won at the highest level, and just a sweetheart. Okay. So I love that selection for Team USA, and I wish all the success and good luck to Kelly. And if I was a junior right now and I was going for Team USA or trying to be on junior Team USA, I would be wanting to be on the team a lot more than I used to be as Kelly Kulick as the head coach there. So great choice by the USBC. And, I'm excited to see all the gold medals that, her and the team are going to win.
Yeah, I second your thoughts. I think that's an excellent choice. So my final thought tonight, Rob, is an alert to the people. An alert to the people that, Rob, we're me and you behind the scenes know that we're a week or two ahead of where we actually are with the podcast, right? And we're going to be dropping some fire. We're going to be dropping some fire over the next couple of weeks. So
we got some good ones.
Yeah, we're going to be switching things up a little bit where we're still going to do our Wednesday shows, obviously, because we enjoy interacting with the people here on Wednesdays. But aside from that, we're going to be dropping a lot of content on our YouTube. So if you're not subscribed to our YouTube, definitely subscribe. So when we do drop this content, you will see it. But most of the content that we're going to be putting out, Rob, is going to be some interviews. Instead of doing the interviews here live on Wednesdays, we're gonna be scheduling a lot of interviews with a lot of the players that you guys want to hear from, and we're gonna feature pieces of the interviews here, Rob, on our Wednesday show.
We'll talk about it.
So
we'll talk about
so if you guys come in, you'll still see you'll see probably the best pieces of the interviews that we do, but you should subscribe to YouTube to make sure that when we drop those full interviews, that you're able to catch them, because they're Rob. There's going to be some good ones in the coming weeks.
We're coming out swinging out of the gate.
We are.
And I'm not gonna give anybody any
no hints. No hints.
No
you
hints.
Gotta
but
subscribe.
Let me tell you.
You got to subscribe.
Let me tell you this. Okay, this is somebody. First off, we haven't interviewed yet. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave that nugget out there.
Rob. No hints. No other.
I'm leaving some hints. I want some nuggets.
That's it. Okay, we haven't interviewed the person yet. All right.
And I'm as excited as I've ever been to interview this person. So.
Okay. Among others, Rob. That's just one that you're referring to among others. So we got some really dope content coming up for the people, and I'm excited about that. You guys should subscribe, tell your friends, let people know. Somebody was in the chat earlier asking about when the PBA tour starts up. It starts up with about in a month. Tell them where they can get that content.
Punch, you got to stay on because Mike got kicked out of his board meeting yesterday for teaching. And I feel like we needed to get a live interview there while that was happening. But I can't wait for this. I'm probably Anthony. Hey, man, take lunch tomorrow, dude. Mike. Okay, you can't keep me into this anymore.
To comment on Billy Punch's joke there, one of the pieces of content we are thinking about putting out, Rob, does revolve around my league experience or league experiences in general. So I'll just say that. So Billy, you should be on the lookout maybe for some of that content as well. All right, you want me to tell you the story about the board meeting? I'll wrap up with that. All right, it's such a mild story for me. You're gonna be somewhat disappointed, especially.
But the fans are gonna love it.
Okay, so here's what happened. Actually, the last 2 episodes that we had to reschedule because I had to go. I'm involved in going to my local board of education.
I thought you were
meetings.
practicing the one night.
No, that was a couple months back. That was like September. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm talking about November and December. These are the 2 months that I went to the board meetings, right? So I've been going to my local board meetings because I have some, I want to be involved in the school system, and I have some issues with things that happen. I'm not going to get into all that. Got to give some background here. There's a guy on the Board of Education, and last night was actually his last night serving on the Board of Education because his term is up and new people are coming in January. So there's a guy on the Board of Education who, when I first moved into the town that I live in, I noticed that he was like really bullying people on Facebook, like in a super aggressive and inappropriate way, especially for a Board of Education member. Now, keep in mind that I'm a teacher, so I'm in that education game, and I understand what the standards are for the people that are in that realm. And this guy was way out of line. So I said something to him, or my wife said something to him, and yeah, he came back and responded, and there were words back and forth or whatever. So he's been on the board for a couple of years now, and at a certain point, he actually got so bad with his online bullying that he ended up having a petition put against him, and he ended up in the newspaper, and like the biggest newspaper in New Jersey, for his antics. And a lot of the screenshots that were in the article came from me. I supplied a lot of the screenshots of his inappropriate comments and things of this nature to the newspaper. Okay. And I'm pretty sure he's aware of that too. So last night was this guy's last meeting as a Board of Education member. And I went to the meeting to speak about something other than him. Okay. I didn't go to speak about this embarrassment to our town. I went to speak about something relating to my kids and their experience with a particular program in the schools. So I don't want any of you to think that I was going for this purpose of instigating. But while I was there waiting to speak, a couple other people, obviously of the same ilk as this embarrassment, they actually went and spoke on behalf of this guy, basically saying like he's done a great job and he's been unfairly attacked, and these false petitions that have been circulated against him. I mean, I'm sitting there, I couldn't even believe what I was saying. Rob, you know me. Rob, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I'm looking around, and I'm very demonstrative in how I'm reacting to what's being said. And I'm like, I got to the point where I couldn't control myself anymore. I couldn't do it. I had to go up and say something for the other side. I was waiting for somebody to get up there and say something about the other side, and no one did. So I was like, all right, I got to get up and say something for the other side because I can't let this stand. So I went up and I started speaking about another topic because you have to talk about something on the agenda. So I said something about that really quick. And then I said, and as far as this embarrassment over here is concerned, I said, when we moved in a few years ago, we had this exchange online, so I said to hear people come to this podium and say that he was unfairly targeted, and that he did a great job. I said, this guy was an embarrassment to our town. And when you treat people that way online, it's no wonder that you end up in the newspaper as an embarrassment, right? So I get done speaking. You could hear a pin drop in this library. And again, Rob, you know me. I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna own that shit. I'm gonna own that shit. Okay. So I walked around back to my seat through the entire library, all the way around the border of the library, head held high, looking at people like, say something. Yo. I'm not gonna curse on here but give me a reason. Give me a reason. And people were looking at me. People had a certain reaction to it, and that was fine. And Rob, I went and sat right in the front row of the board meeting, right in front of the guy who I was talking about. Okay, went right and sat right in front of him. This is not over. This story is not over. This is not why I got it. I can't take it, dude.
I can't take it.
So get to the second comment session. Okay, right before the second public comment session, where you can talk about whatever you want. This embarrassment. I'm not even going to say this dude's name. He's the embarrassment. He he made a motion. He made some sort of motion, this goofy motion about you have to notify the board if you talk to a local politician. So it got voted down very quickly, and then they moved on to the public session. So in that, I went up to talk about an incident with my daughters involving them in a program. And when I was done saying that, I said, oh, I have a motion. How about we make this motion? And again, I can't make a motion. I'm not on the board. I said, how about we make this motion? How about any clown that ends up in the state newspaper as an embarrassment to our town because of his bullying online has to resign from the board? How about that motion? And I looked at him and I said, how about that? You want to do that motion? I said, oh, you're not with that motion, huh? And then I walked away from the podium. And as I was walking away, from the podium, this clown, this embarrassment, this bigot, racist bigot embarrassment, all right, I'll add that. He pointed to me. He pointed at me. He started pointing at me from his seat on the board and saying something to me. I couldn't hear what he was saying because I'm all the way in the back of the room. I just knew he was pointing at me and saying something. So I stopped and I very loudly addressed the room and him. And I said, yo, if you have something to say to me, I'm right outside. I'm right outside.
I
if you
knew
have something
you were
to say
going
for me,
there. Oh,
say to me. And right away, people were like, that's a threat. That's a threat. Get security. Get security. So I walked right out the door and security followed me out, and they had a little discussion with me. They walked me to my car to make sure I got in my car and left the grounds or whatever. But I told him, I said, listen, he was instigating. He's the one pointing at me and saying something. I was just telling him. Yeah, I wasn't trying to threaten him. I would really meant if you have something to say to me, I'm right here. I'm right outside. Come outside and talk to me.
Oh,
so yeah,
goodness. What a great story, Mike.
Whatever, man.
Sherry's about to pay your bail money, man. That's awesome.
Nah, Sherry, listen, Rob knows me. In another day and time, yeah, it probably would have went there. But now, I handle things a little more mature.
Yo, Brandon's first experience with Sweep the Rack was you telling the Board of Education story about you getting kicked out.
Yo, Brandon, I hope you were here for the whole episode. Seriously,
we talked a lot of good bowling content.
So, Brandon, by the way, that's so awesome. He says, first time I've caught the show live. Just found you guys on a whim. Search for a bowling podcast on Spotify. Love the content. Look forward to the weekly episode drop. Brandon, thank you very much, man. Spread the word. Help us spread the word. Help us spread the word about the content. Help us spread the word about the show. Rob, we'll wrap it up on that. I'm glad you all enjoyed I guess we'll have to make that a monthly part of the show now, right? Everybody will know when it's a
league review.
League review, board meeting review. Everybody will know when it's a Thursday episode. There's going to be a board meeting review the next day. It'll be highly rated.
I feel like usually I was the one creating drama in the show, first 48.
Charlie Tapp thinks I'm going to end up on an episode of Dateline NBC. Come on, Charlie.
Let's hope not. Hope not. But yeah, this is the story. The saga continues. All right, people. We appreciate everybody tuning in. If you want to follow us, I'm at Brooklyn Rob 11. He's at what is your Twitter feed? I don't know.
At the 215. Hit us up on Twitter. Sweep the Rack at Gmail. Hit us up in email if you got anything to say.
SweepTheRackBowling.com.
SweepTheRackBowling.com. Check out the website. Rob did an excellent job with it. Order a rosin bag. Support the show. Give us a donation. There's a donation button on there too. You guys go because
we'll put it back in the show. We're not going to keep the money.
We will. We're not keeping any of the money. Anything you guys give us is going right back into the show in some way. We're trying to improve it. We're trying to grow. Trying to make this a bigger part of the bowling community. So, Rob, have a great week. I'm going to go bowl on Saturday. I'm going to practice on Friday. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you. I'll check in. Everybody else, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Later.
See you guys.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.